From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, I'm Rob Cairns. I'm the founder, CEO, and Chief Digital Strategist at Stunning Digital Marketing. In today's show, I have my good friend, Mr. Brian Gardner, with it, a man who's done it all in WordPress. And we're going to talk about product development at this time. This is a really interesting discussion. Brian and I branched out into a couple of things. I think you don't want to miss this one. So sit back, relax, enjoy the conversation, Brian and I. The SDM Show is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, the digital marketing concierge that helps you put all your marketing pieces together. We are your marketing experts. We are also your WordPress security experts and know how to lock down a website and protect yourself from bad actors. So contact us at Stunning Digital Marketing today. Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. And today I have my good friend, Mr. Brian Gardner with me. Hey Brian, how you doing?
Rob, I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
No, I'm doing good. It's good to have you back. Last time we recorded, you were still in Chicago, and now you live in sunny, hot Phoenix, right?
Yes, sunny and 112 degrees today, which is actually a little on the cooler side for this time of year, it seems. So we've our blood has thinned. We've gotten used to the climate here, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been watching the weather, but Southern Ontario, i.e. the Toronto area, has been uncharacteristically hot and dry this summer. So we've had, to give you translation, we've had a lot of days at 100 for most of June and July. We finally got some fall-like weather in the last week. So we've got a break, and I hear it's only here to stay till the weekend. And then guess what? Here we go.
Yep.
So there's a lot going on in WordPress. At time of this record, WCUS is coming up. But what I really wanted to talk about was you put out a tweet, I guess, about a week or 2 weeks ago that got my attention. Not that your tweets don't usually get my attention, but this one was about it's a tough time to be a product developer on WordPress. And you're a guy who's done it all. You founded a company, you've been involved in multiple development, you're in some now. Why is it so hard right now?
Well, so Mike McAllister and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago
Yep.
with Matt Cromwell and Zach on WP Product Talk. And it's no secret that Mike and I are among the most bullish of the WordPress block editor. Unfortunately, we find ourselves in the minority there. There's so many people who have, and understandably so, and probably rightly so, adopted a page builder of choice. And, page builders sort of predated Gutenberg and the block editor, which means
Yep.
they essentially serve up their own version of it, which then means that people who use them don't necessarily need to use the block editor, and so they're working within we'll call them walled gardens, and so they're using classic themes and these page builders to continue to build websites. And so I think whether it's true or not, there's some information out there that the WordPress block editor is this or that, or insert any opinion here, and a lot of people are sort of taking that verbatim, and so they're not interested in using the block editor. And since Mike and I build for the block editor and take advantage of all that it offers, our sort of pool of potential customers is just small. People who are sort of into the modern innovative way of building with WordPress. It's just a small subset of people. And so so that was sort of the impetus for that tweet.
But couple things, and in past I've gone to the build mode group, and I haven't gone lately just because I got a client on Friday that occupies somebody's time, and you know what that's like. But one of the things we've talked about in that group, and you and I have talked about, and other people, is one is doing WordPress your way. I mean, we've said that a multitude of times. And the other thing is kind of in the block ecosystem, but like our friend Peter Ingersoll, I'm in with this third-party product called Cadence, which,
Mhm.
when you think of it, is really another page builder. Call it what you
Yeah.
want, but the
Yeah.
block editor is a page builder. Let's dismiss that myth right now, right, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, it basically was created to, I wouldn't say compete with page builders, but just bring into WordPress core the same functionality that um, third parties had built into it proprietarily, of course. And so WordPress, the project decided it was time to offer up those controls in the same way, even outside of WordPress. Squarespace and Wix are the first two platforms
Yep.
I think that it was meant to compete against, but now we've got, WebFlow and Framer and Figma sites and stuff like that. And so
Mhm.
it just sort of it needed to go there. I'm glad it went there, but now you've just sort of got this inner struggle between the WordPress ecosystem, people who've built third-party versions of it versus now WordPress core, which has its own.
Yeah, and I think I shared this with you. I did an experiment 4 years ago. So it's kind of where I sit. I took my website, my main agency site, I moved it to blocks, but I did it on a live site. And please, folks, don't do that. It's a very bad idea. It was an experiment. So I did like all the blog posts first, then I flipped all the pages, then I flipped the theme. I did it in stages. And what I'll tell you is going from a traditional page builder at the time, mine was Beaver Builder. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not knocking the folks at Beaver Builder. I think they did something pretty solid to a Gutenberg with Cadence. I added 12 points to my GT metric score on the same host overnight.
Oh,
And that to me is compelling right there.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. By default, WordPress block themes, they run really lean. Of course,
Yeah.
most of the results that you see out of GT metrics or Google page speed are not a result of sort of the core infrastructure of the website. It's really more about what you're putting on it, how you're
Yeah.
compressing images, and do you have JavaScript and plugins activated or
Yeah.
whatever. But if you strip it all down, WordPress block themes are extremely light.
Yeah. And I think you're doing some really cool stuff like with Powder and some other stuff you're working on. I've
Yep.
played with several, I've followed several. I think it's really another option. It goes back to doing WordPress your way. And yeah, it's hard, but I also think the new people coming into the ecosystem are jumping more on the block editor than the older people like you and I.
Yeah, I've always been a WordPress core sort of
Hmm.
person, even
Me
all the way
too.
back into the early days of Genesis.
Yep.
Genesis always sort of uh, took a second seat to the way WordPress core would handle things, all the way up into featured images back when Tim Thumb was a day. I talked about this recently also, and WordPress itself came out with its own featured image um, you know, dynamic generation of stuff like that. And we always sort of adopted whatever WordPress did just because it just made sense, right? We had no reason to do it proprietarily, and we wanted to just make WordPress as lean as possible and as easy to use as possible. But I do want to sort of kind of move us around a little bit and talk more about that tweet I did because it was
Yeah,
not
please.
just about, yeah, just not about page building in particular.
Hmm.
It was also sort of out of my personal frustration of the amount of competition. It's just in design, right? Like I'm a designer. I love design. There are lots of talented folks inside of WordPress that are designers. Rafal is one of them. Mike McAllister is another one.
Another one.
Sometimes I just sort of get imposter syndrome, and I'm like, I just don't want to compete against these people who are just, leaps and bounds better than me. In addition to that, Webflow and Framer, as platforms, are even their own marketing sites are really, really well designed. A little more probably on the UI side of it than like the performance side of it, just because usually one sort of negates the other. But and I was just having one of those evenings. I'm like, you just can't be a designer, a website designer, a theme designer that tries to accomplish something, a product for everybody, because it's just the market is so saturated. There's races to the bottom. There's so many good free options that are better designed than the paid options, and it was just really a culmination of just a lot of frustration personally on what I wanted to do, and I think the good thing is, and this has been something I've held on to for several years now, is my side projects don't matter as much as they ever used to because I have a full-time job at WP Engine and that's my number one priority. So everything else sort of like, well, okay, it's not a big deal if I don't really innovate or don't move this forward or build like the killer product or framework because at this point it's just a labor of love.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, in terms of design, there was another post that came out last week from Matthias,
Hmm.
and he was suggesting some stuff that should be added into core. And I don't know if you saw that post. Where do you
Yep.
sit on that as a designer? Should they be leaving core alone and moving some of the stuff in, or should they be leaving it up to you and people like you and Mike and third party add-ons to do that? Like, where do you kind of sit?
I think much of what Matthias was talking about was sort of the resurrection of what Saxton Fletcher was talking about relative to the WordPress site editor in
Mhm.
terms of like the admin dashboard, like the admin design is what we're redesign, whatever we're calling it. And that's very essential to the success and the future of WordPress that we need to consolidate what's been historically the classic WP admin experience with the current site editor experience. You've got two different things here. You've got the way it used to be, the way it needs to be, and there needs to be a harmonization. This straddling between two different worlds is just not like a great user experience. And so I think a lot of what they've been talking about, specifically around the design part of it. I know there's been talk about adding, different and new blocks also to WordPress core, which is a little bit separate than, what we're talking about. But I think much of what Matthias was talking about is, this push now to really try to bring everything into the new uh, WordPress uh, site admin. Sometimes I have a hard time remembering what's the best way to call it, but
Yep. Yeah.
the admin redesign. So
Yeah, and we have some of that coming with the version that's going to come out in December, do we not?
yes, yeah,
Supposedly a major admin overhaul, which is one of the things I'm really excited for because the admin UX is starting
yes,
to look like so 10 years ago, right? Like,
yeah, yeah.
so
I'm looking forward to it. So
what else do you want to see go in the core? Do you have any favorites?
honestly, that's probably among the most important parts to me. I know some of that work outside of design is going to be talking about and touching. I know Ann McCarthy posted a what's coming in WordPress 6.9 sort of post or roundup. One of the things I found very interesting was using theme JSON to do things like register custom post types, which
Mhm.
always seemed to be sort of out of bounds for WordPress core itself. A way to do that. I mean, obviously plugins and functions can be written to do this, but to see that in theme JSON was very interesting because then it brings a little more of the functionality possibly into themes, which then
Yeah.
could potentially cause its own, let's just say, conversational opportunities. But I like them, especially the types of work I want to be doing moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. Um, you've been hard at work on Powder, right? You're
Yep.
still
Yep.
working on Powder, and
Hmm.
I know Mike's got a pile of projects on his go, including,
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong, including some menu stuff he's building out. That's pretty exciting.
Menu designer is
Yeah, but
and it's amazing. I love it. I love everything about it, and I can see it becoming a WordPress core project.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think we got to do something about the menus because that's always been an issue, even for people like you and I who know what we're doing, right? It's just
Yep.
it's a thing. Um, what do you plan on doing with powder? Do you have any roadmap, right?
I have spent the better part of this past year waffling is the right word here. Waffling around what I want to do with powder. I mean, it's as tight and sophisticated as I can get it just because, there's limitations within
Yeah.
WordPress that just this is where it's at. Um, I think I will continue to develop it as new things come into WordPress. I will likely add some more patterns into it. Powder is a sort of on purpose and by design minimalist theme with wireframe patterns meant to, you know, be used as a starting guide or a jumping off point for people building websites quickly. And when I say waffling, it's because the design part of me kicks in and wants to create all sorts of opinionated designs. And so like I've gone back and forth between, do you serve those as child themes? Are they, demo content and all this other stuff? And I just kind of get exhausted thinking about how to pursue that. And so I'm sort of pivoting off into a new project that I'm working on that is still WordPress and still very design, but it is niche. And so that's
Yeah.
where I'm hanging my hat.
I was thinking as we're talking, it would be so nice if we could just get the block people, the Gutenberg people, and the page builder people just to agree to disagree and like let's just move on and stop it. Like and let's just keep doing WordPress the way we want to do it and just make everybody happy. I wish, but maybe I'm being unrealistic, but you want to design with a page builder, go design with the page builder. Like nobody's going to stop you, right?
Yep. Well, we talked about that, ad nauseum at Build Mode, right? Sam Brockway back in the day talked about there's many ways to WordPress, and
Yep.
I've basically, as much as I love the idea of trying to um, do stuff and name stuff within themes that could be sort of, uh, almost theme agnostic. In other words, the portability between themes. It's just, that could and should have happened probably when Gutenberg, the original incarnation of it, came out. Like some standardization of like colors and naming to where that would
Yeah.
become easier. But I've just gotten to the point where there's many ways to WordPress, and the right way to WordPress is the one that's right for you, right? And if that's
Yeah.
Beaver Builder or Elementor or Etch or Ollie or Powder or Kubrick, the classic Kubrick theme, if that's what you need for your website, go for it.
Go for it. That's the beauty of it all. And I think
Yeah.
that's flexible. Address one thing. We all know the number that gets touted out there is 43% of the internet.
Hmm.
And I'm not trying to start an argument, but what I'd like to see is how many of that 43% is actually live sites that are active. To me, that would be a more telling number, don't you think?
I almost think, and maybe I'm wrong, so please don't quote me on this, but from what I understand, that number is always based on the top million websites of the internet,
Okay, that's right.
which sort of means then, okay, these are active and the top and most trafficked website. It's not just random sites that are stale or whatever. So I think by nature it's a little pre-qualified, that 43%.
Mhm.
Um, but what I, and this is where I think we're all, when I say we, I don't mean just WordPress people. I mean everybody in general. Technology with AI, and it's such a weird world to be in because the need for a website is lower than it has been 6 months ago or a year ago. Um,
Yep.
you've got people building businesses on social media platforms, or there's just less of a need. And with all of this AI and LLM and GEO sort of stuff, the traffic across the internet is down to, especially, to content websites, right? Lifestyle blogs or just anything. I think we're also sort of seeing, and this is AI overview, as of
Mhm.
huge impact. And so people are like, well, what do I need a website for if no one's going to even be going to it, because they can consume all this information now within their LLM of choice or through an AI overview, and they never even get the traffic. And so
Yeah.
we're seeing things shift. So
I think so, but I still think there's a need for a website, and I'm going to be biased as a marketer and a web guy. There's a there's a need because you need a home base and a home base that you control. You do
yep.
not control social media. We've seen people get banned off Facebook for no reason. We've seen people get banned off Instagram for no reason. We've seen it all. We know TikTok is in flux in the US and Canada because of who owns them, ByteDance, and being partially owned by Chinese government. We've seen it all. So I think you need a home base. What I would say is I don't think SEO is everything. So I
Hmm.
did an experiment a couple weeks ago. I'm running down on episode 600 of this podcast, so I have just a few out there. And I took my fiance's name and I threw it into Gemini right in front of her and
Yep.
said, "Who is, you know?" And I asked the question, and Gemini spat back that not our relationship, but that it was based on that she's somebody I dedicate my podcast to. So AI is smart enough to go and pull those components. And she does not, beyond Instagram, have an active social media profile. So there's the
Hmm.
power of AI right there.
Yep.
But that said, AI is causing other problems. I'm a security guy, and you know how much fun I'm having right now. Like
Sure.
it's causing the bots to go after more. It's taking the time from a vulnerability discovered to the time it hits the wild. It shrunk even more. It's getting really challenging with AI out there, Brian.
Yeah. Yeah. It's disruptive, but providing lots of opportunities all in the same breath.
Yeah, I think it's honestly, and we can't go through this conversation, especially in WordPress, without having it talking about AI, because we know Automatic now is a team in New York City, right? Correct
Hmm.
me if I'm wrong. Several teams, Cadence has certainly gone AI. Some of your competitors have gone AI. You guys have gone to AI at WP Engine. We've
Yep.
all gone to AI. And I think what it's doing is shifting what we do, that we have to incorporate AI in what we do now. I don't know about you, but I'm in Gemini every day, all day. So
I am not in Gemini, though we have that through the company. I do most of my stuff personally, and it's also through ChatGPT. I think we just
yeah,
sort of identify our own flavor of choice and all of that. But yeah, it is. And you know, when I say that, I mean kind of like when ChatGPT first came out. I feel like most people thought it was like a bug versus a feature in terms of the use
yeah,
of it. People would do it and they would lie about using it and they would feel bad and weird and all of that. But I think very quickly that shifted to now it's a feature of, you know, someone's work capabilities. Like I am AI infused or I know how to power stuff with AI or whatever. So that part of it I like. The fact that it's now being celebrated, the use of it in terms of, you know, we'll call them prompt engineers and things of that
yeah.
nature. And so I like that it is now sort of seen as something that is beneficial to someone's repertoire, so to speak.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I've done all kinds of cool little stuff. I would say if you're using AI to gen a plugin, be very careful with the code because I don't think it's security enhanced. So you got to watch that side of it. I know somebody who built an entire CMS with AI. I don't know if you saw that one. And that's, to me, that's a disaster waiting to happen from a security standpoint, because
Yep.
I think the bots will have that one for lunch before it's out. And there's some of that going on. So I think we just got to be really careful about how we're using the tool, don't you think?
Yes. Yeah. You know, I think I mean I use it generally for, let's just say, copy slash marketing and then
Yes.
very lightweight um code stuff. Really simple plugins that do very simple things.
Yep.
Um that I could probably hire someone to help fix if some for something, you know, and generally just like personal purpose. Like I would never create like this grand plugin that does X and then buy a completely AI and then try to sell it and build a brand around it because that's if you don't really understand the code, you're just using something that was given to you. That's very dangerous,
Yep.
as far as I'm concerned. And so I also use it for some strategy stuff. Like, hey, help me think through this. Is you know,
Yep. Me too.
I've even had conversations literally with ChatGPT saying, "Hey, I'm Brian Gardner, WordPress product guy. I'm frustrated with, you know, per the tweets. I'm frustrated with the market. Help me learn or identify opportunities that might be better suited for me. I love to do this. I like this industry, whatever." And it walked me through several nights of, you know, conversation, like where I'm at now with the project I intend to take. So, um, strategically, it's helpful too. Kind of therapy in a sense, right? Like
Yep.
fun therapy. I use it a lot. So
One of the fun projects I did recently was my other half came to me and said, "Could you do an image for the family picnic, an invite?" And I
mm,
was so lazy. Now she's Italian, and I was so lazy. I had Gemini create the image that we sent out with the invite. Now it's funny because Gemini tries to be politically correct. So when I said, "Give me a family," what did it give me? A mixed race family. And I had to go back to Gemini and say, "No, no, no. I asked for an Italian family, so please
Yeah.
correct. And it will do things like that. And honestly, it took me, it took me 12 minutes with about 8 prompts, and
Yeah.
I couldn't have sat with Adobe Photoshop and created it that fast, to be honest with you. So,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know, I think we're getting there. I think AI is going to cost us jobs. So I'm in the AI camp. So we've all seen automations come. We've all seen page builders come. We've all seen Gutenberg come. We've all seen the printing press for books come. And there's all kinds of jobs there. So I think AI is just reshifting the way we think and do things, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it'll take a lot of jobs, but it also creates maybe as many just different jobs, right? So it takes the
Yeah.
job of a copywriter, but then creates the job of the prompt engineer or the marketing, overlord or whatever, right? Like because I think there still needs to be some direction given. I've got a good friend who is a copywriter and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm done. I'm done in life because it's going to take my job." And of course,
Mhm.
that's just his fun chicken little version of it, but then he realizes like, "Hey, with this tool, I can create better copy than I can write for myself, and there's still always going to be a need for good copy." Right?
Mhm.
There's going to be people in industries like the one I'm going into where the people who are in it just don't want to be the ones to even play with AI. They want good content, and if that means a person along with the AI tool can give that to them, then there's still opportunity.
Yeah. What, moving forward, what excites you most about WordPress? You're always really excited about WordPress, which I love. What's exciting you right now?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm always excited about WordPress. I
Right.
love
You are.
WordPress. The people, the community, the opportunities, the whatever. I'm hopeful still that given the roadmap and having an actual 6.9 release this year, um, it felt like we were a little bit in stall mode there the early
Mhm.
half of this year, which I think WordPress, unfortunately, the open source nature, it
Mhm.
has been slowly developing at a pace that already felt like we were getting lapped by competitors, and so at some point that might just be a problem. I don't know. But the fact that we're working towards 6.9 and moving things forward some more, and we see innovation that's very needed. Mike McAllister's doing a fantastic job, and his
Yep.
partner Patrick at Ali, they're doing several things there that are just, I think Mike's just frustrated that things don't exist inside of WordPress core, and so he's
There he
creating
is.
proof of concepts. He's admitted this menu designer is going to be submitted to WordPress.org, which then makes it available to be merged into core. And so I think Mike is just like me, just really thinking about the future of WordPress, the still bullish about it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
there's a lot. I think there's a lot of good things going on, and there's a lot of good people going on. It's the only industry I've ever known where competitors and colleagues sit down at the table and we all talk about the same things, even though
hmm
we're after the same business. It's quite
yeah.
remarkable when you think about it. Like even you work on a host, and the hosts all sit down together and have
hmm
these conversations. Where would you ever see that? That's pretty special, Brian.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that next week, as you mentioned earlier on the show. WordCamp
Yeah.
US is next week, and I've got all kinds of friends that are literally working at competing companies that we do. Just there's so much we have in common. We'll sit down because I think in the big picture, though we all need to make money, we need WordPress to win, and in order for WordPress to win, we need to some extent come together and help each other out and help the software move forward. And looking forward to having face-to-face conversations with people who can make that happen.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to leave with? Anything you're working on, or anything WP Engine's working on, or any of that?
Um, I mean, I'm still playing with powder. I'm
Yeah,
moving into the real estate industry vertical. That is something I'm really excited about. So once
I
I get
know
back
that.
from, yeah,
I know that vertical. I've had family in it and clients, and I know that's a
yeah,
challenging vertical, Brian.
It is, but I see so much opportunity. I've said, real estate industry has historically been just anemic when it comes to design, and there's just so much opportunity there. And I
Yeah,
just love the real estate industry. We've bought and sold 10 houses over the last, 12 or
yeah,
15 years, and I love the hyper local elements of it. Like there's just so much cool stuff, and using WordPress patterns to build, layouts and things like that. It's pretty exciting. So I'm looking forward to really diving into that.
yeah. What I will share with is I believe the real estate agency, real estate business, is the next business step for disruption, the way Airbnb and and DoorDash disrupted. I think the real estate, I've been saying this for a couple of years, is prime set because the
Yep.
way that industry is, it's set to benefit the broker, not the agent. And that's a bit of a problem too. And I had an aunt who, I don't know if I've ever shared this with you. She was Century 21's top broker in the Detroit, Michigan area for many, many years. I mean, she
Mm,
passed away at 92, but she was like number one or number two in the state for years. So he knew a little thing, but I think that industry's changed because we all know in marketing, differentiation matters. And in the real estate business, there's no differentiation at all.
yeah. Well, that's
It's
why I'm
really,
in there.
I wish you well with that. And
Thank
Brian,
you.
as always, thanks for jumping on and having a quick chat. Also, more importantly, thanks for being a friend. It's always appreciated.
You're very welcome, Rob.
This podcast has been brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital marketing concierge to help the business owner put all his pieces together, whether it's email marketing, WordPress security, WordPress design and development, PPC, and more. Text Stunning Digital Marketing for all your digital marketing needs today. A very special thank you to Brian Gardner for joining me on this edition of the SDM Show. The SDM Show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.